And we're back. Greetings all. Thanks for tuning in to Get in the Door podcast. Hopefully this is a familiar voice. This is Professor Plum. And I'm with Bill Hellkamp. And Bill Hellkamp was a guest on the show a few times with Steve Kloida. And Bill and I have adopted the podcast, Get in the Door podcast. We want to continue to provide information to the listeners, and we want to continue to pay our respects and our legacy to Steve Kloida. Bill Hellkamp is with me, and Bill took over PSA after Steve Kloida, and Bill and I have been working together on different projects. He's got a lot of experience, and I'm really grateful to have him as the new co-host of Get in the Door podcast. So, Bill, welcome to the show. Glad you're here. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, thanks, Scott. I appreciate that, and I have been in sales a long time, and I'm excited. Was a good friend of Steve's, and just excited to be part of this podcast and moving it forward in some of the old directions, and then looking forward to some new directions as well.
And I really believe in working with you that we complement each other really, really well. And I know that as our listeners are tuning in on a consistent basis and they're getting different perspectives and they're getting new techniques and new beliefs, and hopefully the goal is to really engage in the attitude and the outlook going future in the role of sales. I believe that the adage is still true that nothing happens until somebody sells something.
Right.
Even though our marketplace is changing and the needs and the communication and how we engage with our prospects and customers is changing, we still have to work on influencing people to make a decision. You can see that in the news. You can see it how our leaders are really encouraging us to practice different behaviors, and they're being influential in that message so that we are adopting it. And that is the role of a salesperson, is to be influential. And I really believe that, together you and I are going to be able to give our listeners the resources that they need in a different perspective. And we're going to be able to cover the selling in the new reality. And basically our goal, our objective for this show, our first show, is to be able to get our listeners re-engaged and to be able to make a commitment to them, and they make a commitment to us to tune in every week, to be able to listen to the ideas and the perspective that we're delivering them, and for them to be able to have confidence in it and to engage in the guts and courage to go out and apply it.
Yeah, I think the important thing for people to understand in this is you can't wait for things to go back to the way they were. We call it the new reality because there's going to be changes that are going to stick, and it may be a whole new way of selling that you're going to have to adopt, and you're going to have to change your old mindset from, shaking hands and meeting in networking groups or whatever it is that you do to engage people. There's going to be a whole new process, and you're going to have to do that. And that's one of the big parts of what we want to talk about is what is the new selling? What is the new selling process? How do we still engage people like we need to, but with the new tools that we have available to us?
Yeah, so true. I don't want to be assumptive, and those that are tuning in for the very first time, I'm Professor Plum. My real name is Scott Plum, and I did the podcast with Steve for many years, a couple of years, and I've started my company, Minnesota Sales Institute, back in 2002, and been working on selling primarily services, primarily to the professional industries, and have worked on all areas in the sales channel when it comes from determining a value proposition to cold calling scripts to managing your daily behavior and your goals and your habits and your beliefs. And we both, Bill and I, if we were to combine our years of experience, I know it would be over 50, maybe even 60 or 70 years of experience. And it's just so great to work with Bill on his experience and to be able to leverage both of our time together in the sales industry, in the sales marketplace, and then be able to share it with our listeners. So one of the things that go ahead, Bill.
Oh, well, I just wanted to mention I've been in the sales business for over 40 years and teaching salespeople 30 years and with my own company for over 25 years. So as you say, there's plenty of experience here, but we're also interested in your experience.
and sharing it. And as we get further along in the podcast here, we'll be able to share our content information. So our goal for this show is to get our listeners engaged again, coming back. We also want to plan a show in the future and really honor Steve Kloida and the impact that he has made. It is just amazing to read these emails from the listeners on the impact that Steve has had in their life. And I really want to encourage you to think of a story, think about something that you learned from the podcast, something that Steve taught you, and you applied it. And because of that, you got a different outcome. And because of that outcome, you can describe the impact that you made on a person's life, a prospect, a customer, a client, something that he maybe said to you that you applied in your own personal beliefs, in your attitude, in your confidence, and then how that confidence was shared with somebody that's important in your life. And
there was I just want to mention something. I had a chance to see Steve teach live a couple of different times. And one of the things that amazed me about him, and this is because he made so many prospecting calls, but he would take an audience member and he would say, tell me a little bit about your product. And they mentioned 3 or 4 things. And he'd immediately turn it into an engaging and interesting prospecting call. And I think that's the thing that people have to understand. It's you need to get to the point with what you do where it's kind of, I call it the aha phase. You don't have to think about it. You just know what to do. And so often we struggle at translating things. And I thought that was one of Steve's great skills, was immediately translating client needs, client issues, product value to those customers on a phone call.
Yeah. He was very intentional. Everything he did, he really thought about the impact that he wanted to have and really prepared. Every time we did a show together, he always prepared all of these notes. And he was really committed to making sure that he was thorough, that he covered the certain points. And I really appreciated sometimes how hard he was on some people and how committed he was in his beliefs. And hopefully that confidence was translated to the listener, that they were able to believe that Steve's position was so strong that they ended up applying what they learned from Steve. And just an honorable man, just a faith-filled man. I mean, his faith in God was rock solid, and you knew where he was coming from because his identity was so grounded in his faith.
His balance too was so good. You say he was hard on people, and he was very demanding, but he was also a great encourager.
Yeah, that's true.
And within that demanding spirit of wanting you to be better, he also would look for every little improvement that someone would make and encourage them that they could do better. And when you left Steve, whether you left a podcast, you left a meeting with him, whatever, you felt you could do it and it wasn't impossible. And I thought that was a very good value that he brought to the table for everyone.
Yeah, so true. We're recording this on April 1st, so no joke, okay? And, I just want to be able to add some context about the content that Bill and I are going to share with you today. And Bill, you mentioned the word of balance, and I look at the marketplace right now and how things have really changed. But at the same time, how we need to work on rebalancing our life. We're working from home, so we're bringing our jobs into our homes, and we have to rebalance our priorities when we're working in today's marketplace with doing the laundry during the day. It's like, wait a minute, that's not what we should be doing. We should be working and then doing our laundry in the evening or on the weekends like we used to do, but we're rebalancing our priorities. We're maybe available more often because we're working from home. So some people might take advantage of that. And we look at reprioritizing some of our goals and how we interact with the marketplace and with our customers. And
well, I can bring a lot of education to that working at home, Scott. I've worked at home for 30 years. I've worked at home through 3 boys growing up, and my wife homeschooled, so they were always around. And I should have worn my referee shirt more often than I did. Right. But I always laughed at the call of the refrigerator and the pantry. Are very high when you're at home. And whenever there's something that I didn't want to do, I found myself at the refrigerator rather
Right.
than doing that uncomfortable thing. So, as you
Yeah.
said, a lot of distractions
Right.
in the home, and now most of you will be in that same situation. If you have family, those family members will be around, and you're going to have to make a decision to control that environment, to find that workspace. I just recently did a little article on that I put on LinkedIn, and is also on my website at reachdev.com. But it's three or five tips for working at home, and so I think that might be beneficial for people as well.
Yeah, we'll give we'll repeat the links. So I'll put the links in the show notes on how you can get a hold of all of this information that Bill and I are talking about. I always joke when I'm working with a company that hires me to interview and hire salespeople, and sometimes the candidates come in and they go, "So, what's your position on working from home?" And I say, "You mean like a farmer?" They think, "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, a farmer works from home." "What do you mean?" "Yeah, they get up every day at 6 in the morning and they go out and they have to milk about 40 head of cattle, and then they come in and they have a little bit of breakfast, and then they go back out and they have to feed the hogs and the calves and the chickens. And then they may come in and have a little bit of lunch, and then you go back out and you might cut some hay, you might put it into windrows, and then you
Right,
come in and you
right.
have a little bit of dinner, and
Yeah,
then and all of a sudden, and then you finally at about 9:30 at night you end up heading into bed.
right,
That's
right.
working from home every
Well, I
day."
think too, the challenge, there's certain things that we do when we work at home that are called to us. We've got appointments that we've set up, or things that are on our calendar, and we do those because they call to us. But in sales, there's so many things that don't call to us, and even challenge us, calling back a customer, making those prospecting calls. And that's where the discipline really has to come on all of those items that can be avoided. They can be avoided even easier at home than they can in the office. In the office, you're sitting at your desk and you finally have to do them. But in the home workplace, there's a lot of distractions, and you can let them take you away from those difficult things that you have to do.
Right, right. So
Hey,
true.
let's take a moment before we go
Yeah,
farther.
yeah,
I want to talk a little bit about Steve's product. I know you are a little bit more familiar with the prospecting expert website and where they can go to get some of Steve's products.
yeah. Great idea, Bill. A lot of people maybe don't know that Steve put out a book, and The Art of Prospecting, and it was released unfortunately after Steve and I recorded our last episode, and it came out on the marketplace. And the best way to really, I think, maintain Steve's legacy is to buy his book, and you can get the book at his website, theprospectingexpert.com. Go to the store and you'll be able to see a copy of his book, and you'll be able to order it. It's also available for digital download, and you can all find all of that on the website, theprospectingexpert.com. And then Bill, he also had a few coaching programs too that are also available there. But anything
Yeah,
more you wanted to add on that?
he has one called the Instant Sales Coach. It guides you through 5 online modules, and then the call reluctance, excuse me, the call reluctance transformer. So some very exciting things that he's got on that website.
So check that out. And again, there'll be a link in the show notes on how to get to that. But one of the things that Bill and I want to cover is how do we adapt in today's marketplace. And I shared a little bit on rebalancing and getting into reprioritizing what your day is like. And Bill, you want to add one that you think listeners should adapt?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I think the biggest thing that's going to be a change, in addition to what you mentioned, which is the working at home problem, is how we interact with people. That is fundamentally changed right now. We don't know, looking in the future, how much that's going to continue to change. Will you ever attend a large sales conference again? Will there ever
Yeah.
have a meeting room where there's 500, 600, 1,000 people in it? Or is everything going to move online? Will you ever shake someone's hand again?
Right.
Right? Are
So
we going to
true.
do that? And how do we greet people? Which a salute or the elbow bump just doesn't do it for me right now.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't get the same warm feeling as a hug or a handshake.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we going to do in this new reality? One of the things that I think is real important is, if you're in sales, you need to be bringing new ideas right now to your customers. they are challenged as you are. They don't know where their next customer is going to come from. They don't know if they're going to be in business. How can we provide for them through our products and services new ways of doing things, new ways of engaging their customers? If you don't have that, and you can't bring that, you can't just call people and go, hey, I was just stopping by, right? You're not just
touching base.
Touching base.
I'm just touching base.
I'm
Okay.
just touching base with you because I got nothing else to do today, so I'm calling all my old customers and bothering them.
Right. I'm bored, so I'm going to just touch base. I'm interrupt you because I don't have anything going on.
And some of those people are okay with being interrupted right now, but I would say they're worried. And what can you bring them as new creative ideas through your products and services to be able to engage their customers and continue to do their business?
Yeah. Very good points. I'd like to add that we need to really take this time to work on internal development. This is a chance to redefine our belief system. This is not a difficult time. This is a time of opportunity. And we need to be able to work on leveraging this time to create greater opportunities. I'm on the board of the Roseville Area Optimist Club. And I was talking with somebody and they said, boy, this is a really difficult time. And I go, no, I don't know that it's a difficult time. It's a different time, but it's a time of opportunities. And it's a time for us to be able to level the playing field and to work with everybody differently. And this is a chance for, if you were falling behind, to really strategize and get ahead. And if you were getting complacent and taking advantage of your history and your success and not adapting to the marketplace as it changes, it's going to be a harder change for you.
Absolutely.
Because you've really stopped working on how to adapt to the marketplace and the needs of the marketplace. I always say I work with two types of groups. I work with one group that maybe is 6 months or under 2 months, 2 years in sales, and I really work with them to give them a solid foundation of sales. And then I work with the other group that's been selling for 25 years. All of a sudden, one day, the market just changed and the faucet turned off and it just stopped.
Yep.
And they don't know what happened. And it's because, there was a reason Johnny Carson retired when he did. There's a reason that Jay Leno retired when he did. And now I'm not sure who's taking over the Tonight Show because it's not my demographic.
Right. I don't even know who the people that are on it. Who are the guests? I don't know who the guests are.
Yeah. They won some music award. I don't know.
Well, the sales world was changing already.
Yeah, it really was.
I read the book Sales 2.0, and one of the things that they said in that is that, and I believe this, is that buyers are looking online and doing a lot of their research before they even want to talk to anybody in sales.
Yeah.
And you've got to work more closely with your marketing departments now so that when your customer's out looking for something, or those people you don't know, they're not your customers yet, right? Those unknowns are out looking, they can find you so that when you make your calls, they can find information online. And so they like to do this research now.
Yeah.
And so we need to work more closely with our marketing departments. We need to work more closely with where that information is, so that when we're prospecting, when we're out making calls and meeting people, they have a resource that they can go back to.
Yeah. I'll add that if we don't challenge them, we won't change them. If we think,
what do you mean by that? Tell me that.
Yeah, if our prospect is going through a process of buying and they're doing their own research and they're figuring out that the answer that they're seeking is going to solve the problem that they understand, they may be creating a bigger problem. So we really need to challenge them on understanding what is a symptom and what is a problem, and really what is going to have the biggest impact when they find a solution. And if they self-diagnose themselves, thinking that they understand what the problem is and thinking that they know what the right solution is, they're going to create a bigger problem. And we need to challenge them on their process, because if we don't insert ourselves into the process of them making a decision, they will not buy from us because we are not part of the process. This is how you deal with an RFP. You get an RFP, you look at it, you read it, and you go, I kind of sense they probably have already made their decision, or somebody else has a little bit more influence in how they're describing the purchasing process. I need to challenge them on this thinking this position that they're taking, the process that they're going through, and I need to be able to figure out a way to insert myself into the process because then I have a chance.
Well, absolutely. And good prospecting means that we get there before they start the process,
Right.
that we engage them in thinking about a new option or a new opportunity, and then we get to write the RFP.
Yeah.
And we force someone else to come to the table on that. Everything I've read, every experience I've had says exactly what you are saying, and that is if we're living off RFPs, somebody else has already gotten there to write the RFP.
Right.
Exactly. And now we've got an uphill climb. And so, what Steve taught was get in the door, create that relationship, and convince them or help them see how your product or service is going to benefit them. It may not even go to an RFP. That's our goal, right? And if it does, it's the RFP that was written specifically to meet your product specifications. So
yeah, exactly. One more that I'd like to add is I think we need to really work on sharpening our skills on building trust and rapport. If we are not able to build trust and rapport, we're not going to get honest answers. And I think I've said this in past podcasts. And we need to be able to do that on the phone. We need to be able to do that through a Zoom meeting or an online conference, a GoToMeeting or a Skype or anything like that, as to how do we engage with people and to be able to build that trust and rapport. Know that small talk is like walking in a minefield. Let's limit our small talk. Let's get to building rapport and asking questions that are focused on our prospect. And when we ask questions and we're able to anticipate the questions that they should be asking us, now we're really telling them and showing them that we're a few steps ahead of them. They're going to look at us as a resource, like Bill said earlier. If our prospects look at salespeople as a resource, we don't fall into that supplier or that vendor trap. We fall into the person that's going to be able to advise them on making a change that they need to make, because if they don't make a change, it's going to cost them more in the future if we're doing a good job of that. And for them to be able to trust us that we are going to be focused on their needs and not our needs.
And I got to tell you, you mentioned Zoom and GoToMeeting, those sorts of things, Hangouts. You got to be an expert at this. You can't be, this is the first time I worked with this. Let me see if I can, tilt my phone. I've been doing, obviously, like all of us, more of these meetings. And here's just a couple of things I think people should think about. First of all, your phone on your desk, so I'm looking up your nose at your light fixture, haloing your head, is not a good picture that your customer is seeing. If I'm looking at the background down your hallway and your kids are walking by, this is not a good vision. You have to think about what the whole picture is that you're presenting. If your hair's a mess and you decided, you just got up and I'm working from home and I don't have to dress up, you better change your thinking and start seeing yourself as a professional on these websites. Know how to look on the screen and think about how you're coming across in those conversations, because you are building not just rapport, as you mentioned, but you're building trust. And if you look like an absolute idiot on the video with bad lighting and a halo behind your head because all your lighting is, you're going to look and look like an amateur. Think about this, practice it with other people that you know, until you have a good setup, a good camera, a good microphone, and you start to sound good. But I can't tell you the number of people I've looked up their nose because they lay their phone on the desk and then they're looking at their screen and it looks terrible.
Oh, I get that. I never thought of it like that before, Bill, but you're absolutely right. All right. Well, should we start wrapping it up? I want to be able to give people the website to look for more show notes, more the information that Bill and I covered, including our contact information. So if you go to getinthedoorpodcast.com, you will be forwarded to the web page that's going to have all the information on our podcasts in the future. Bill and I are going to really work on evolving the podcast. We're going to evolve on incorporating a theme and really create a podcast that focuses on who we are. With all due respect to Steve, he did a fabulous job of talking about getting in the door. Bill and I, that's not really our primary focus. So we're going to work on evolving the podcast to what our listeners want us to share, which is why your feedback and your comments are so important. We'll have a form on the webpage. Please complete the form. As soon as you do that, it's going to be emailed to Bill and I, and you'll be able to share ideas that you have, directions that you want us to go, the challenges that you're experiencing. What can Bill and I do to make these podcasts as relevant as possible to some of the challenges that you're experiencing? That is our goal. We want to continue to provide relative information that's useful in today's marketplace, and the marketplace is constantly changing. Also, give us a legacy experience that you learned from Steve. What impact did he have on your life? Bill, anything you'd like to add on that?
Nope. I just want to repeat, getinthedoorpodcast.com. There'll also be a phone number on there. If you want to contact Scott or I directly, you can do that. This is a time of great change, and you need to change not just what you're doing now. You can't sit around and wait for it to change back.
Right.
You need to make the decision now. I don't care what any politician says about when this is going to be over. When it's over, it's not going to be over. This is a sea change in the way of doing business, and you need to start doing business in a new way. And you know what's interesting? From someone who's worked out of their home their whole life, you might enjoy it.
Yeah.
You might find this is a much more fulfilling experience for you, and you get more work done because you're not spending an hour both ways in traffic every day. So find the benefits in it, go out there and use it, and we look forward to hearing from you at getinthedoorpodcast.com.
I'll add just one more thing. Steve was a faith-filled man, and I just want to be able to think of him when I say this. God bless everybody. Pray for the people that are struggling during this, and let's pray for this epidemic to end as soon as possible.
Amen.
Let's go.